What's up, guys? I thought it would be an interesting idea to make a ranking of what I think are the 10 biggest mistakes Pokemon Unite players do. So let's just start with the number 10 on this list, which is taking every single Apom on the way to lane. It is one of the biggest mistakes as well, and I think it deserves a point on this list because it can set your lane partner very far behind. It doesn't matter, even if you have an attack bait lane partner, right? They suddenly can't get an attack bait stack, or if your Pokemon needs, the other Pokemon needs level 3 for the first Audino fight, suddenly they can't be level 3. So it's one of the biggest mistakes. Make sure that you share those two Apoms, both of you get a last hit. You're not pressured by anyone, so you can take your time. I'm just gonna make sure that both of your, both your lane partner gets the equal amount of experience, so you're able to fight for the first Audino on equal terms. Because if if someone like Lucario doesn't have his level 3 move up, or doesn't have 2 points or 4 points to maybe get an attack bait stack in, you're handicapping your ally a lot. Come to the second one, pretty similar, is stealing your jungler's Lily Pup. It happens, I know it happens on accident, but it is a big mistake, of course. Hitting your jungler behind, which is one of the most important roles in the entire game, is obviously tragic. You don't want to do that. He's going to be very far behind compared to the other jungler, and he will not be level 5 on the first gank, which can, on certain Pokemon, can be a huge issue if you're not level 5. Someone like Gapsol or something. If the Pokemon's level 5, much, much weaker than it's obviously supposed to be, right? Or Dratini, Dragonite. And I know it can happen on accident. Just make sure that if you play a ranged auto attacker, just walk in the middle of the lane. Just make sure you walk in the middle of the lane. Don't walk too close to the wall, and it will never happen. So yeah. Next up, we have picking bad lane Pokemon. Now, this is one of my favorite mistakes that people do. I think it's fine to have like a few bad lane Pokemon. The biggest problem happens when you have 2 bad lane Pokemons in a team. You guys all know about these. Lane Charmander and Lane Charizard both in the same lane. I mean, no, Lane Cinderace, Lane Charizard in the same lane. And you have no chance there. You know that it's going to be a hard time. They can't last it. So make sure that if you see one of your allies pick a bad lane Pokemon, make sure you pick something that's at least decent. So if you see you have lane with the Cinderace, make sure you maybe pick a Machamp, Lucario. Maybe I know Sylveon needs level 4, but Sylveon is still pretty good. Wigglytuff, Blissey, any of those. That if you see your ally being like, okay, he wants to play Cinderace, just don't make the mistake of picking something equally bad. Like, don't pick a Gardevoir, or pick a Greninja, or a Charizard, Don't pick any of those. Make sure you also at least pick something that is strong in lane. And then we have the next one, which is also something outside of the game, which is the wrong hate items and better item choices. Hate items are the only thing that can make your Pokemon stronger that isn't just level based, right? There's 2 phases of making your Pokemon stronger. It's hate items and level experience. So if you go into a match with the wrong hate items, you're handicapping yourself already very hard. It can be a huge difference about what hate items you have. And of course, you know about those people who have choice specs on Greninja, who have special attacks on, again, physical attackers in general. And obviously, that is a huge, huge issue to have. Or playing Goal-Getter on Pokemon that just don't make sense to play Goal-Getter on. Score sheet on Pokemon that make no sense to have score sheet on. It is very, very important to have the right hit items and the right better item going into a game. And it will increase your chance by winning by quite a lot, just having 1 or 2 better items. It's very much sense, right? It's where your power of a Pokemon comes from. And it's the only thing that affects your power. Next up on this list, we have, I think it's number 6 now. We have not farming experience. Not farming experience is a huge issue. I think a lot of people just tunnel vision way too hard on getting kills, and they don't just, there's always Audinos up. There's always Audinos up on the side, and people just don't respect them at all. And I think that is a huge issue, that people just don't farm experience. It's so, so important. I see every time I play, I just see that people just don't want to take the side of Apoms or Dinos and just run into teamfights that make absolutely no sense. And these teamfights makes no sense. They just run straight into the fight without Unite moves instead of just farming experience. Make sure you always clear the yellow things on your side of the map. There's so many people who go into late game teamfights being a level 11 on an attacker Pokemon, right? Being under-leveled on like Blissey or Snorlax or Wigglytuff doesn't matter too much. But if you're a level 11 Charizard going into a Zapdos fight, there's a high chance you're going to be very useless. So always make sure you prioritize farm. If nothing is up, of course, objectives are important. But if nothing is up and the first goods are down, experience should be your highest point of things where you get stronger from. And also the best way of coming back into a game is farming experience. If your goals are dead, just make sure you always clear farm on cooldown, and you don't leave your buffs up too long, you don't leave your dinos up too long. You're ready there when bees are spawning, and being aware when the bees spawn, and make sure that you get further and further ahead. Then we have number 5 on this list of the biggest mistakes is Rotom priority. Rotom is a objective that a lot of Unite players love, but often it's either completely useless or even makes you lose games harder. So what do I mean exactly by this? People like to use Rotom to kill the first goal very early into the game, which is very bad. You don't want to do that. That's the next point, but I'm going to come to that in a second as well. Killing the first goal is bad, and then Rotom can happen that a lot of people like to push Rotom into the second base when jump pads are already live, and they just chain feed, and they just give enemies comeback experience trying to get this Rotom pushing it in. Of course, it can be used as a good distraction tool, for sure, right? Like, it pushes top lane, so you do something on bot side, but I think a lot of people just don't understand how to utilize Rotom, and then generate tunnel vision way too much on it. In the end, it really doesn't do anything whatsoever. People just, first Rotom of the game is like one of the worst things you can do, unless you play well with it. And there's also a lot of people that don't pay attention to when a goal is under like 20 points, they do Rotom, and the Rotom is going to kill the goal, and that's it. You don't get a huge overcap, you miss out on a lot of experience. The Rotom just runs in very fast, it doesn't really do anything, you can't even side pressure with this. It's one of the biggest mistakes as well, that people don't look at how low a goal is, and they just do Rotom to get Rotom. I think that's the biggest issue. People just do Rotom to do the objective without even understanding what it does and what it's supposed to be. And again, it's just very weak as well. Like, it is very weak. Rotom is a very, very weak objective, and the priority of it is just very, very wrong. Number 4, we have breaking goals too early. So this is a big mistake I always love to talk about, is breaking goals too early. And what do I mean by too early? I mean around the 8 to 6 minute mark. You don't want to break Rotom. You don't want to break goals. It's just way, way too early. Your enemies will have funded experience on their side for free, right, for the rest of the game, unless you do something with it. They're going to have Audinos every single minute spawning, the hyper carries can farm up, and you can still be 14-15. Even after losing the entire game, you can still be 14-15 in Zapdos on a lot of Pokemon just by these Audinos. So I think breaking goals too early just is a very bad issue. It also forces people to go to the enemy side of the map and potentially die trying to do something there and being overleveled. So in general, it's something you don't want to be doing too early, unless you have a plan for it, right? This is like purely based for solo queue, where people just break goals and they leave towards the other side of the map instantly, and it's just very, very bad. Number 3, Dreadnought. So Dreadnought's not a mistake, it's just the first Dreadnought is a mistake where people don't show up for it. You show up for the first Dread, there's only like a few Pokemon who shouldn't probably be a Dreadnought, like Garchomp, or top lane Pokemon that still need to stack their attack rate. Totally fine if they stay top lane, but the rest of all should all be a Dreadnought, the first Dreadnought. It's such a game deciding thing, it snowballs games very, very hard still, and just a very good team morale boost as well if you're able to win Dreadnought. And you should be there. If you play top lane tank, a top lane support, a top lane attacker, you should always be bot lane. If you play Machamp, Lucario, Serena, or Garchomp, you can maybe stay top lane and let your team be 4, but in general, if you play top lane, you should always be there. And now we talk about the third Dreadnought as well, right here. There's a good example. People overcommit for the third Dreadnought way too much. It's a very useless objective, and Zapdos positioning is much, much more important. And now we come to the second part, or number 2 on this list. The second biggest mistake is what my Blastoise just did. Is use Unite move. This is why this third Dread is also very bad. People just like using their Unite moves there, right? Unite move at the last Dreadnought of the game, 10 seconds, 20 seconds before Zapdos spawns, then you don't have it for Zapdos, and there's so many Pokemon who need the Unite move on Zapdos, right? It's just such a huge game changer. Of course, you get move speed, attack speed, you get cooldown reduction on certain Pokemon. It is such a huge difference having Unite move or not in late game team fights. If you don't have it, you're just a billion times weaker than everyone else. So using Unite move 20-30 seconds per Zapdos is the second biggest mistake in my opinion, and it really goes hand in hand with the third Dreadnought as well. Now we go for the biggest mistake, not showing up to Zapdos. Doesn't matter what it is. Backcapping during Zapdos while you don't have a Hooper, waiting in a bush to snipe Zapdos, not showing up at all, just not being ready for the 2-minute mark and not being aware when Zapdos spawns is probably the biggest mistakes in Unite, because on solo queue, Zapdos is what decides the game. Doesn't matter what. It doesn't, like, points really don't matter how much you gain during the game. 90% of the game should be decided on which team is going to get Zapdos, right? Out of personal experience. And I think you guys, probably in your games as well. Zapdos is just the game deciding thing. So if you backcap during it, if you are still farming your Dinos while Zapdos is up, if you, just use your Unite move, if you stay in a bush and wait to snipe it, this is the biggest mistake in Unite you can do, and it's going to lose you a lot of more games. Of course, you can backdoor if you have a Hooper, but often, you won't have a Hooper on your team. So there's no point in even going for backdoors if you don't have a Hooper. Comes out in handy with all these goal-getter players. You have to be at Zapdos. Have position at Zapdos, be ready for Zapdos, be ready for forcing team fight. Because if the enemy team sees you're someone backdooring, they can just engage on your team, right? And the enemy team can just force a team fight instantly. You want to be there so that your team is not outnumbered. And of course, you know, if the enemies are very good engaged, then your team will be engaged on as soon as they see you backcapping doing Zapdos. So make sure you show up for it. Hope you guys enjoyed this list. Let me know if you agree with it. Just had a Serena game in the background running. So let me know if you guys agree with this. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Bye.